Hello and welcome. I'm Dan McDermott. This is Google Plus Week, our unofficial look at the world's coolest social network. Joining me is a Google Hangout. Let me take a moment to introduce our panel. First up, we have Sariq.
Hi.
Sariq Menon, what town you in?
I'm from Springfield, New Jersey. I work in New York. I'm a techie, programmer, as well as system analyst.
Okay.
And I am a fan of Google.
Peter.
Peter McDermott from Nashville, Tennessee, and I am a Google Plus consultant.
Okay, and we have, next up is Mohammed.
Hi, this is Mohammed Rafiq. I am from Seattle, and I'm a techie. And I am also the founder of a Google Plus news site, google-plus.com, besides many other sites.
Okay, Jeff?
I'm Jeff Zayas from San Francisco Bay Area. My website's rvtraveltv.com, and I'm just a basic techie
and
at
a
heart.
fellow Wirecast user. Eli.
And a fellow, yes.
Eli Fennell. I'm from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, unabashed tech nerd, and if Google was a woman, I would do naughty, naughty things to her.
All right, from the opposite side of the spectrum, Bruce.
Yeah, I'm Bruce Turner. I'm in Lynchburg, Virginia. I work for a healthcare company. Also do audio and video podcasts and some freelance voiceover work.
Okay, and we have Anthony. We can hear him anyway.
From Rochester, New York. I'm in retail with Wegmans and, geeks.
Okay, and Alan.
Evening, Dan. I'm Alan Furstenberg, known as Prisoner among these parts, and you can find me at prisoner.com.
Okay, great. All right. Well, I'm Dan McDermott. I'm in Virginia, in Bentonville and Front Royal, Virginia, and sometimes in Lynchburg, where Bruce is. I'm a newspaper publisher and on-again, off-again radio talk show host, and I do this for fun, to get to hang out with Oleg and Alan and the gang and get beat up every week for free. Okay, first up, Google announced this week that Hangouts now have some featured apps. There were some apps before, YouTube Player and the little funny hats and stuff. But some of these are useful apps, some are fun. But they've also opened up the Hangouts API, or Application Programming Interface, to anyone who wants to create their own apps. A few days ago, we spoke to Google's Chi Chu, who is the head of Hangouts, and about this, and he explained that the idea is to unleash the ability for anybody, a professional or just a kid starting out, to develop their apps and share them with whomever they choose. The best apps, the idea is, will become popular, go viral, and encourage more app development and more innovation. For example, a few minutes ago, I installed an app called the Hangout Comments Tracker, which will cull the comments. It's working. It culls the comments from the live Hangout that's going on right now, so I can see it right inside the Hangout. I don't have to be flipping around to different places. It's kind of neat. I wish I could comment back from here, but you can't post from an app yet. This is actually an extension, and Alan's going to explain that, what the difference is and all that stuff. So this is huge. Now we can read in real time, right in the Hangout, what folks are writing on the player watching, and respond. So that's fantastic. And this is only a couple of days after the API was opened up. So I want to bring in Alan Furstenberg, again from New York, who's been working with the Google Plus API from the very beginning, and has really been just dying to get his hands on this stuff. Alan, I want to know, why is this a big deal for the regular user of Google Plus and Google Plus Hangouts especially?
This is huge. The big deal about this for Hangouts is that it takes Hangouts to a whole new level. I mean, trying to just kind of explain just what this means is, there's no way to really express it all, and we're only going to have to see it in time. But basically what this means is that we've brought in new levels of interaction into Hangouts. I mean, we all remember from the early days of Hangouts that people would play things like Pictionary via Hangout. And over time, people would do some games and other things like that. Some people would do some business things through Hangouts. But mostly what we saw in Hangouts was a lot of people talking to each other, playing music. What this does is it gives us a whole new set of tools that we can all interact with each other with. And since interaction is the name of the game when it comes to social, that's why it's so big. We've often talked about how social is just kind of bringing people into your living room. Well, if you think about it, one of the things you like...
That was cool.
We lost Alan.
That's great.
Yeah.
By the way, for those who didn't hear, I'm Oleg, the one that Ben skipped today. I'm the guy who
Oh my gosh, Oleg. I
And let
apologize.
people, and let people beat up everybody at Google. So today we're gonna recover that topic again until Alan comes
Oleg,
back.
oh,
So
yeah, I'm
I'll
sorry, Oleg.
run.
Real quick, give us what you're in Kirkland, Washington. I'm sorry, you're.
I'm sorry it
I'm
doesn't cut
sorry.
it. Then I'm sorry. I'm sorry it
So-
doesn't cut it. Out of 9 people.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I
Of all
screwed up.
people.
I screwed up. And also, there's
Okay.
another one.
Okay.
Okay, Peter's camera's just off. Okay, Oleg, you're in Kirkland, Washington. You're not specifically. You're more of a web developer than an app developer, right?
No, I'm not. But basically, what I wanted to say is it's the Kirkland, Washington, where Hangouts were born. I want to make sure that's on the
Absolutely.
record. This is where the Hangout team lives, and so this is. I should have been introduced first. We'll talk
I
about that later.
apologize.
Uh,
I did.
Anyway, no. What I do is I'm an IT consultant and developer, and the easiest way to explain it, I design and develop custom business systems for people, and they are web-based nowadays. I used to do legacy stuff, now I do web-based stuff. So that's kind of a quick way to explain.
Okay,
What I do.
what I wanted to get, I know that you're just now recently, with Alan's help, he's going to be guiding all of us because he's really been involved in this. You're yourself getting into Hangout app development. What I want to ask for you is, where is this going? What are the practical applications of this? Because this is huge, and Alan will get into this
it's
too.
one of
But
these
what do you think?
It's one of these things. I totally agree with Alan that it's a huge thing for Google to put this out. I mean, that's the first thing I would say. And the reason it's huge is because you can now take technology of Hangouts and adapt them to just about any kind of environment you wish. Let's say you wanted to have a poker game with a bunch of people in a Hangout. Well, with apps you can do it. Without apps you couldn't do it. With apps you can do it. Let's say you wanted to do other kind of games, be it chess, be it anything else. So you have this live environment with people. At the same time, you can have it do more than just regular video conferencing where everybody sees each other, talks to each other, and does a little bit of chatting. In terms of what it's gonna, the things that it's gonna actually allow you to do are beyond even when we had this hangout the other day with Cheat. He said it himself. They wanted to put together a platform where developers can come in and develop whatever they want, which Google cannot even think of at this point in time. Okay, and so that's exactly what they're doing. Is they putting out this platform saying we're allowing you to do these certain things using this Google Hangout as the backbone, with API doing whatever you want it to do. So, for example, Alan wrote that up, little app that Alan put together that we saw was a little bit piece of text, floating around the screen, and the piece of text can be customized to be whatever font you want or whatever size you want, things like that, color you want. Well, on one hand, you can say this is nothing. I mean, that's it's a gimmicky thing, just like the deal with cats and dogs and the masks were. But on the other hand, if you're thinking of applications for example, for schools, and you're thinking of doing things that all of a sudden, you're trying to create an environment where the teacher becomes something else for a kid, which completely takes their mind in a totally different direction in terms of how they view this teacher. And so as I'm moving around here, hopefully everybody can see me.
Yeah,
can you see me,
a
Dan?
pirate.
Dan looks a little scared there for a second. It's like I said, to one degree it's fun. You can do these kind of things. But from an educational standpoint, you can now open this up to do a lot of things with schools. That's one area where I think it's going to excel. You can another area where I think is going to be very useful is in the area of business when you do presentations, because I think there's a lot of things you can do. YouTube was a great app. I mean, that's one of their apps is YouTube. By the way, what we saw before with Google Docs being part of Google Hangouts with extras, and then they added, the YouTube was there. All of that stuff was, sorry, but my phone just keeps coming out. All of that stuff was done with Google Apps. They just didn't announce it to be Google Apps first. They were doing testing to see how well it would work. And now they rolled it into one product, basically, where you go Hangouts, and then you have these apps, and it could be YouTube, so you can share and watch a video together. It could be Google Docs, where you can share, collaborate together. Then they have, like a poker game. They have a little doodle thing for kids. So there's going to be a lot of things coming, and in terms of where it's going to go, it's kind of hard to say. But it's an amazing new possibility for Google, and now all kinds of developers are going to be developing.
Okay, let me throw it to Jeff. Jeff, have you thought about some practical applications of this?
Have I? I tried some. I actually downloaded the API and I started to play around with it a little bit. And I'm thinking that for what you guys wanted to do with the Hangout comments were definitely the direction people want to go. I just think it opens it up. I haven't quite understood why I want to do it as of yet. I haven't come to that decision, but I know it's kind of like the Android market. When they first started something, it allowed other people to kind of get their arms around it and start working on it. So I'm just playing around with the API, getting used to it, hearing little whistles in my ear. It's lovely. So yeah, I can't think of anything currently that I want to do, but I will come up with something in the
let me ask you something, because you've just now recently, as I said before, started to play around with the Hangout app. How challenging is it? That was one of the questions when Alan comes back I want to ask him. But for someone who's, most folks who watch this have dabbled in HTML on their blog or something. Is this rocket science or what is it?
No, it's not rocket science. Number one, basically, the easiest way to describe it for people who understand a little bit about HTML and developing web pages is anything you can drop into an iframe can be put in here. So, to translate it to a little bit easier English for most other people is if you know HTML and you know JavaScript, which is more important than HTML actually in this case, then you can put together code to be able to create these apps. For example, they have a really basic app that just puts a button on the screen. When you click on the button, it shows you all the people in the Hangout. That's all it does. And they call it, the basic Hangout app. So I haven't looked at any of the stuff before yesterday. I just downloaded the thing, followed their directions, which are about 3-4 steps. It was very simple to get it, stuck it on my server, and then I just simply added a little bit of code in there using an embed from a chatting service, because we were talking about chatting, and it worked. So the bottom line being that if you do know HTML and you do know JavaScript, especially JavaScript, then it wouldn't be so tough for you to pick up how to do this. Is it trivial? No, it's not going to be every other person be able to pick it up and do it because it is definitely programming, and JavaScript is not the easiest thing to learn, and especially with the way their APIs are set up. One of the things, for example, I tried to do today is just simply add a picture, so it doesn't just show a person's name but a picture. I could make it work, and it's a learning curve. So it's not simple. It's not like anybody can, if you ask somebody how easy it is to put together a web page, it's nothing. I can teach my 7-year-old son to put up a web page in a matter of half an hour, or less. But in terms of doing this kind of stuff, it's definitely more involved. I think for people who develop software, who do know HTML and who do know JavaScript, I think for them it's going to be relatively easy to get.
Okay, cool. Peter, what do you think? You're kind of a techie guy. What have you played around with these apps at all? And have any thoughts? I think this is pretty cool. It's a big day, big week.
Yeah, the one app relating to the poker game, I was privy to a few people that were testing that while it was in beta. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out if Google's embracing more partnerships from better known brands, such as the Bravo app we're seeing now, or if there's also going to be some grassroots stuff that we're seeing there. But definitely for businesses that like to capitalize on this face-to-face communication, there's tons and tons of opportunity out there for app development. The possibilities are almost endless.
Mohammed, you're a newsy guy, tech newsy guy. What are your thoughts on this? This is a big deal, right?
Yeah, definitely. Unfortunately, I was traveling for the last 2 months. I couldn't get hands on the API. Definitely, next couple of weeks, I'll be jumping into it. It's definitely a game changer. It definitely improves the collaboration within the participants. Say, for example, you want to take a poll among users and you want to have a debate about it. Then you can have a debate in the Hangout. Then you can vote on it.
Absolutely. I was just having a chat with Alan about that, who's thankfully joined us again, about how neat it would be if, for example, you could be during a debate, you could have. What if you could capture real time? Anyone watching could vote up and down, like for a focus group, or how people are doing in a debate the way the focus groups do. If you could integrate that and maybe show it on screen in a Hangout. There's gimmicky ways around it. You could have that and just have that as share a screen and join the Hangout a second time and bring that screen up when you want to do it. But the possibilities are amazing. Alan's back.
Yeah.
And even more incredible, Dan, is that the thing you're describing, they're doing right now, using little knobby controls. They put 20 people in the room, as you've seen on TV, I'm sure, and they have people doing these adjustments left and right, how much they think of this. But this is so much better because here you can have people be in disparate locations. You don't have anything influencing them basically, and you can literally have a tremendous amount of people participating at the same time as they watch, for example, the president's speech, or they watch election results, or whatever they watch. No, it's a totally different ballgame in terms of that, in terms of how far you can take this concept using something like.
What's really exciting to me, I'm gonna go back to. Do we lose Alan again? Man.
Yeah, he did.
Okay. It's gonna make Google Plus more relevant and the Hangouts more relevant, especially for business people. And let me ask you this, Oleg. Is this a monetizable thing? Like, will people be able to charge for apps if they're really, especially for like higher end business apps that are really intricate down the road once it gets more stable?
Well, it's like anything else. I mean, any applications out there, you can buy a 99-cent app for your Android phone, and you can also buy a $500,000 package for your business. So it's like anything else. If it's going to have value, and people will want this particular capability, then of course they're going to pay for it. I mean,
and if they come up with some kind of object-oriented app builder or something that could go directly into Hangouts, it would change it even more. Make it available for the masses.
Well, it's difficult to do that, Jeff, because you don't know what you want it to do. I mean, you need to come up with the functionality.
Yeah, no, but they did that in the Android market. They had that app inventor, which was object-oriented, and that kind of worked. So, hopefully.
Yeah, I have a comment. I agree this is a game changer and everything, and I certainly don't want to judge the quality of the API based on the novelty type things, because I understand that they demonstrate the power of the API and everything. But I wonder what the balance is going to be between people who are developing, just purely novelty things, which you can already do on, you get software with your webcam that will do that. How many of them are going to be, game oriented? But I'm really interested in how many of them are going to be more professionally oriented for the business person. Like, for instance, does this API offer any kind of a glimmer of hope to be able to create and display lower thirds, switch from cameras automatically, do a picture-in-picture, side-by-side, those types of things? That's mainly what I'm interested in. Is that in the horizon with this new API?
There's some of that's in the horizon. I mean, things like lower thirds. You've already, you're currently seeing Oleg with some graphic text overlaid on top of it, and that's essentially a lower third. So that sort of thing is almost there. Other things that require more low-level hardware access, the picture-in-picture, or the switching between cameras, that's probably less likely to be here. What would not surprise me, though, if we saw more of, is if you hooked up two cameras to take up 2 seats in the Hangout, and that there would be an API way for you to switch between one or the other, or, for example, to do, for Dan to show his screen and then put Oleg into a picture on that. That's something that the API might be able to handle in the future, but it's not there yet. Right now, most of what the API is designed to do is to give you information about who is in the Hangout, do a little bit of communication between people who are in the Hangout, and in a very limited way to overlay things on top of your own image stream going out. There are a couple of other things, but that's primarily what it's focused on right now.
But also remember another thing, though. In addition to that, once you have this information in terms of programming, you can then parcel it off to other sources that are outside of Hangout and do all kinds of things that you need to be able to do based on the information you collect in the Hangout. So there's a whole other aspect in addition to things that you write to do as an app in the Hangout. It's also collecting some of the information and then doing some things in a totally different place as well. So it's a whole new ecosystem, basically, in terms of
it's a whole. It's the argument of don't build a product, build a platform. I remember when we were kids, Pong came out. It was a machine that played Pong. That's it. And then the Atari 2600 came out, and it was a machine that you could buy different games for. And so we're kind of that's what's going on, and it's really exciting. And anyone can write them and share them. And what Chi said about how the popular ones will rise up, and the ones that aren't so good won't. And this is just very exciting. This will make it so much more relevant to folks who don't find it relevant now.
I think they didn't announce it, but I think what's going to happen is they're going to have in Google Play Store. I think they're going to have another section for apps for Hangouts. Just watch and see. That's exactly what's going to happen, and it's going to be the same as Android apps. Some will be paid for, some will be free. I think that's where we're going to go.
Yeah, they have to flush all that out because it's a little bit it's just very infant stages of how they install apps and what's the right way, what's the wrong way, and all those things, and it's those nuances will happen. But yeah, it's a great first step, and it's just going to be amazing to see what people come up with because there's a hunger out there. Everyone wants to jump on it now, so we'll be see what's coming up.
Yeah, I mean. I don't know whether you guys have come across this Hangout app, which was published by one of the Google's product engineers called Amit Phule. I will post a link on the comment section in the post, Alan's post. This one is very interesting. It's called YouTube Slam. This is one of the first apps to launch after we took the Hangout APIs out of preview. That's what he says. This is the first one theoretically. You create. It's a video duel actually. You can actually I wish I could show it here, but one of my concerns is once you're already inside a Hangout, how do you actually get an app installed? I mean, we saw that from the comments one, which earlier we tried. We had to create another Hangout and get the app installed and then come back into the original Hangout, right? I wish there was a way we can actually get a new app into this. I don't know whether you have seen this, but you can actually create slams by going to a link called. It's actually a very simple link. YouTube / Hold on one second. It's a link which is an extension of YouTube itself. Hold on. Let me try to get it here.
Well, we're going to see a lot of this coming out. I mean,
this is
remember that this thing came out 2 days ago, literally.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you can't, and this is a huge deal. It's not some little rollout where you used to be able to do red comments, now you do blue comments.
Yeah, let me finish. It's called YouTube /slam/ create. If you go there, you can create, from your playlist, you can create a slam. You can see 2 YouTube videos side by side, and you can kind of vote which one is better. So Chichu actually shared this today as well. This is the first app.
To make it more fun, you play them at the same time.
Right. Yeah, something like that. It's amazing. But I wish again I should be able to get that into this Hangout without actually getting out of it.
Okay. Any final thoughts on this? And then we'll get to the.
They build a platform. Then they put some samples out there and make others build applications on it. Then as it catches more fire, and if it is very successful, then they take it to the next level, like you guys told, and goes into the App Store, and that is a success.
Yep. Yep.
Right now, to do some of the things like that Jeff is doing or that Peter is doing, requires this kludge workaround of using things like Minicam, Webcam Max, Studio Webcam to capture and things like that. I think if Hangouts is going to really get professional, that they either need to be able to put in some of these higher end professional things, or be willing to work with companies like Wirecast, VidBlaster, XSplit to come up with ways that these devices that already do very professional lower thirds, transitions, picture-in-picture, side-by-side, video playlist, audio playlist, and on it goes, so that it can bring Hangouts to a new level for people. Because, right now, they've added kids to Google Plus, and so there's a lot of fun stuff going on. But I wonder if Google is reaching out to some of these other companies. I know some of them are reaching out to them to try to get their virtual camera functionality to play nice with Google Hangouts. It would be a great thing.
I think Google is looking at all of this and saying there's so much that they need to do. They're bringing it in bit by bit. As people start asking for new things in the API, they're going to be adding those things to the API as best they can. But I think we're going to start seeing...
The Alan just disappears at the best moments. Just absolutely great.
Yeah.
Anyway, what Alan was trying to say, let me finish his thought, is a couple of things. First of all, we're not bashing Google on this episode here. Since I'm here, we're not doing any Google bashing anymore, like we did last.
Are you speaking for us, Oleg?
I speak for everybody.
Don't speak for me.
Okay, I'm speaking for myself.
Speaking Russian.
But Oleg, the key here is the what I said before. It's they're building a platform, not a product, right?
What I was going to say to Bruce's comment is when we had Chichu the other night, he indicated, kind of gave us a little story behind it, and everybody needs to understand what the situation is. And the situation is that Google Hangouts, you know, people call it killer app, whatever they call it, they have a small team, and that's per his words, not mine. We had a small team that they have putting this thing together. It was actually an afterthought on Google+. It was born out of just basically almost nothing, the way it came to be. And they have a small team. They still have a small team. And they have a lot of things on their list. And there is only so much they can deliver. And so I'm not excusing them. I'm just saying that we need to be patient. There's all these people that were writing all these horrible articles about how horrible the whole Google Plus is, and nobody's using it, and all this other baloney that was being printed. Yeah. But in reality, if you look at it from a standpoint of what they actually released so far, and then they're coming out with things like they released the games, which was a big deal. Then they release now this apps for Hangouts. They're doing some really major things. And so what basically needs to happen is, number one, they're not a huge development team for Hangouts, number one thing to consider. Number two, they are coming out with things all the time. Number three is they're listening to what we have to say, and they're constantly, like yesterday we were in a Hangout with Catherine, I don't remember her name.
Catherine Grams.
Yeah, and she was just most gracious from Google, taking notes, what would be like in the Hangouts, what's not working, you know, give us some feedback. I was given HOA so I can, you know, record stuff with the understanding that I need to be sending them feedback reports and indicating to them if I have any problems or if I have any suggestions or anything else. My list, I mean, going back to the last week's show, my list in terms of what I'd like to see Google do is much possibly even bigger than Scoble's list was. But to me, all these other points I made need to be understood and considered. These guys are not gods, and there's not an army of 1 million of them doing it. And personally, I think they're doing a phenomenal job with everything they've done. And with this Hangout deal being so new in terms of apps, it's just coming out. We just need to be patient, give them feedback, constructive feedback, not giving all this criticism where.
I don't think anyone's really we're criticizing them. But like you said, we were in that Hangout, and she was listening. She understands the importance of having a Google Talk plugin that is able to have virtual cameras. All of them work with it. They totally get it. It's just like you said, it's priorities. And one of the priorities was to get everyone on air status. So that's kind of
right.
Yeah, Jeff. What he said. One key thing she said was they're trying to create the platform so that if you want this feature, you can develop it, or someone like Alan can. Telestream can look at it and figure, you know, if they can come up with apps that work with their products. And they just want to create. They're not the best at doing all those different things. They're the best at creating this platform, so that the experts.
Well, it's not so much that. It's also what they're doing is, you know, the thing to understand is that they have their list. You know, there's some talk like they just don't get it. They just don't get it. If they only implemented this, they just don't. They get it. They get it much better than all of us get it. It's just they have a list of things to do, and they have a certain priority of how they're doing it in. And so this deal with apps is an example. They do not announce stuff ahead of time.
I think the problem that most people are saying that Google doesn't get it, or issues like that, don't have to do with what apps we're missing. You can come up with your list, and I have my list, and Scoble has his list, and Peter has his list, and Dan has his list. Everybody's got their own list of things that they'd like to see in here. The question, though, that I think that Scoble, that underlies all of that I think all of us are asking, kind of boils down to why aren't more people coming faster? And why do some people, probably a huge number of people who do come here, leave thinking that it's a ghost town?
Well, it'll change in time.
That's
you know, some people.
Yeah. I don't buy that. I go by what Mick says. Okay?
No, wait a minute. I just talked to Melissa Carlson from KRNB in Nevada. And the conversation I had with her, she's trying to get more of her viewers to interact with her on Google+. Right. And, you know, she's fairly new. She's got, I think, under 5,000 people following her. And one of the issues she's having in getting her viewers and getting other people to interact with their newscast it's very complicated to get signed up and to get into a Hangout. She says, you're not going to believe it because you're very familiar with this, you use it every day, but to the end user, our viewers, when they go to interact with us in this live interactive webcast, they give up halfway. They can't even make it that far. So it needs to be more intuitive from day one.
I saw that. I got that yesterday from
nobody's
someone
saying
who said that,
perfect.
I went there and I couldn't figure it out.
It's perfect
So-
here. I agree, but I'm just saying, look at it, what you just said. You said
So
that
you're
you-
agreeing. No, stop there. You're fine. Thank you.
Yeah. Now, let's just go back to the API. It's a wonderful thing. They're doing a great job, and they are listening. It's just, things are going to take time to roll out. And, this is, day 3, right?
Well, here's my only problem with the API is when we talked to Chi, when I did my G+ interview with Chi a couple months ago, the recurring theme was the Hangout team wants to make this as intuitive and simple as possible. The idea was not to make it look like the cockpit of a 747, to have an on-off switch with a mute button. And, I mean, look at it now. There's all these different options, all these different menus, all these different things you can do. Do we really need all that there?
They're getting rid of Hangout with extras, right? And it's just going to be
Well,
Hangouts.
now, all Hangout with extras was the native platform of the software that they're using, and
Right.
they're adding features to the native
Right.
platform, which they moved in what she calls Hangout.
It's their test bed. Peter has a valid point. Every single person so far who I've seen start up an app, the first question is, how do I close this thing?
Yeah, that's a problem.
There's a lot of complexity here. Now, complexity itself isn't necessarily bad, but there's got to be that easy transition. You've got to make it so that it's very easy to get started. And when everyone's doing something, you say, oh, wait a minute. You guys are all playing poker? How do I play poker? And it should be easy for you to start playing poker. And once you play poker, you say, well, wait a minute. Are there other games? That whole process of discovery, of learning how to add how to acquire features for yourself, that's important.
Yeah.
And we're not quite there yet. Certainly not with Hangouts.
That's what Alan talked to Catherine yesterday about, and we actually offered her some suggestions about how they can make it to be much easier to find things. And hopefully they'll listen. Hopefully they'll do this stuff.
But they just need to be consistent. Just like you have that toolbar on the top with screen share and Google Effects.
Jeff, it's not so easy to say. They just need to be consistent.
They need to be consistent, Alan.
Consistent.
They need to be. How about they need to be consistent? So when an app gets installed and started, if it should go up to the toolbar and stay up there, and then when you click on it, it should disappear.
So when you're running 20 apps, when you have 20 apps at your command, what do you put there?
The toolbar scrolls down to another set of 20.
No, you see, Jeff, here's the problem. You are saying all they need to do is this, and there are a lot of other issues that they need to look at and examine and figure out. One of the biggest problems.
But the concept I'm talking about is consistency, right? And making it easy.
Talking about consistency. The problem is you can make something totally consistent and still completely unusable.
Yep.
But you can make it consistent and usable.
Sure, but what you're proposing is not necessarily consistent and usable.
Okay, listen.
But it's not. It's inconsistent now, so it makes it unusable.
No,
like you said, people don't know how to close the app.
People don't. But what we have now actually does have some consistency to it. For example, if I hover over a picture at the bottom, I have controls over that person. I can mute the person. I can block the person. In the same way, if I do the same thing to an app, I can close the app. There is a certain consistency to it if you take the time to learn that. The problem is if you take the time to learn it.
Okay, so
No, but that is not a true statement. If you go for Google Effects, which you have loaded into your toolbar, right? It comes up as into the toolbar. It's not an app at the bottom of the screen. It's not. Hold on. Let me finish. It's not an app at the bottom of the screen. It's an app I loaded into the toolbar. And how did I get to load in that toolbar? I clicked on apps at the bottom of where it says people, and added it, right? And it showed up in the top toolbar.
It's still another issue. The effects or what they call accessories. Accessories and apps are two different things. And
it's not explained. I got to the accessory apps.
I know that.
Right.
There is a difference. The problem is they haven't explained to you that difference. They haven't made that difference clear. They haven't even made it very clear to the developers at this point. I don't think it's not always a consistency issue, but it is an issue that they need to clarify and figure out how better to show some of these things.
Yeah, I'm just getting back to what Peter said, right? And kind of pointing out that those inconsistencies makes it harder for an average user or anybody to use it. I'm just trying to pull it back to what he was
Peter
talking
said
about.
was that there's no such thing as simple for everybody. Okay,
Exactly.
There's something for simple for some. For others, it's not that simple. It's just
That's,
the way
that's,
Let's
I
ask
totally
Peter.
disagree.
Let's
That's
ask
hogwash.
Peter. The other
That's
comment I
hogwash.
would make-
Licking a stamp is easy. You get it wet and affix it to a piece of paper. There is one step involved there. There is no
if you work
friction.
with
It's
APIs,
a very simple task and something easy to do.
if you work with
Peter,
APIs,
I'm not sure I agree with that.
none of them are that
Peter,
simple. It's just the way
Peter, you're making certain assumptions about licking a stamp there. And the first is that you have a stamp that needs to be licked. And the second is that you know which side of the stamp you need to lick it on. And you're making certain assumptions because you see those assumptions as easy and logical. Other people don't. I think the problem with Google Plus and Google Hangouts isn't about things that are easy versus hard. It's about how you learn about what you need to do. And for a good computer application in the modern age, a good modern computer app can get you started doing something quickly and easily, and give you an easily understood way for how you learn the next thing that you want and need to do.
Mm-hmm.
Google Plus hasn't achieved that yet. That's one of its problems, I think.
It's like, I just want to add something to it. Like, it's like previously when we want to use a phone, we want to read a manual to use it. And when the iPhone came out, you can just use it without even reading a manual. That's the, switch between usability. How Apple changed the game.
Okay, guys. We all agree on this now. Okay, great. Let me switch to the other thing, the commenting platform, which is kind of cool. I guess Peter will be a good one because he's got several web pages and Oleg and everybody, I guess. But I first discovered the Facebook comment system on TechCrunch, like a lot of folks did, and I thought it was great because the reason they implemented it was it minimized, it cut back on spam posts and it cut back on trolling because there's some sort of identity verification that Facebook does fairly well, as does Google Plus, and so they were man, that's distracting. I don't know whose phone that is, anyway, so they have it's neat, and what's great about it if you own the website is you do a post. If it becomes a hot post or whatever, someone comments under there, then by default they can uncheck it, but it'll share that comment on their Facebook wall so that you have their identity. It also encourages people to comment there because if people like your comment and want to interact with you, then they can easily find you your Facebook profile and send you a message. Whereas other places, like a lot of websites, they don't do that. You can have your own website there, but you can't put a link on it. You can't say much, and there's no way for someone to interact with you. So it's kind of like a waste of your time. But I think it's great that Google Plus is now also apparently going to be working with, I think it's pronounced Discuss, I guess, but it's spelled weird. But it's the similar to that, but you can choose whether you want to use Yahoo ID or whatever ID, and they're going to integrate that. I think this is fantastic. So let me ask Peter first, and then whoever else wants to chime in. This is great, and I think this is going to. And I'm curious on your websites. I'm sure, obviously, you're strongly going to consider this. I've seen some where they, like, if you have a WordPress blog, where right now they'll have Facebook, and two of my newspapers we use the Facebook commenting system, and I actually disabled the WordPress commenting system and just left the Facebook. But then I see other guys like Jim Romanesco, who has a very popular blog about media. I think it's jimromanesco.com or romanesco.com, but he has both. He has the Facebook comment system, and then below that he has the WordPress comment system, so you can choose either. What do you think about this? And are you probably going to use both, or what are you going to do?
Yeah, Dan, you mentioned two things that are very interesting, and one of those things was cutting back on spam. Anybody using the WordPress commenting system probably uses a plugin called Akismet, which actually checks basically the way the comment is built, the text that's in there, and can tell whether or not it's probably going to be a spam. It's got about a 98% ratio on flagging spam. Not a lot of positive negatives, if that makes any sense, or true positives. But anyway, so you have that, you have the Facebook system, and you have Discuss, which kind of looks like Discus because it's got a Q in it. I understand what you're saying there. But, one of the problems with having a proprietary system on your blog, and there's a lot out there, there's a lot of different companies that offer these systems for commenting, is they're not necessarily frictionless. A lot of them you have the opportunity to log in either using your Twitter account or your Facebook account. But if you don't want to associate it with either of those identities, you're unlikely to leave a comment there. Personally, on my site, what I've done is I leave the WordPress comment system, and I'm actually going to do a screen share to show you what the navigation looks like right now as I'm looking at it. And by leaving the WordPress system, you can leave whatever comment you want, but I still have all the opportunities for you to share using those various networks there. The one reason I like doing that instead of having one dedicated comment system is it still invites you to share across all these different various networks, whereas in the comments, if it was controlled by one social network, you wouldn't feel so inclined to share across multiple networks. Now, however, with Google, based on the reach that I have, I think it's going to be more beneficial for me to use their embedded comment system. So I'm really, really looking forward to it. One, because it's going to help me network with other people. It's going to help push traffic to my site because, as you said before, when they leave a comment, it'll either be a checkbox that they'll have to uncheck or that they can check themselves to share it with their followers. And that's a great, great source of traffic for my website, and it's also a great way to connect back with other people. Right now, when people leave comments as themselves, even using their Gravatar profile, I still have to find out where they're from and see whether or not I'm connected with them on Google+. Since Google+, like we argue about every week, whether it's a social layer or a product itself, since it's spanning across YouTube, across Google, across Docs, and all these different things I use for my business, it's going to be most beneficial for me to use this on my blog to connect my words with my video.
Yeah, okay. Alan?
Peter,
yeah,
Peter,
go ahead,
can I
Alan.
follow up with a question? Follow up with a question to Peter. Peter, you say it's going to be beneficial to you, it's going to be a great thing to you. Why is this going to be so much better than something like Facebook comments?
Well, particularly for me, and as an early adopter, somebody that has most of their following on a particular social network, it's obviously going to behoove me to do something that's convenient to those followers. Now, then again, you might argue if I don't have as many followers on Facebook, maybe I should use Facebook comments to drive in traffic from a different location. So that is a great question.
But you're not going to dump one for the other,
think
right? You can leave them both up. You could have WordPress comments, the Facebook comment app, and then the Google Plus comment app, because clearly your presence on Google Plus is larger than your Facebook presence. But everyone uses Facebook, so it'd be stupid to cut one out, right?
Well, yeah, that's correct. But I think when you have too many different conversations going, if they're actually working with Discuss, as you mentioned before, that's an incredible partnership because those comments are aggregated and you have the ability to share across multiple networks. So using Discuss, that would be a great way to embed the Google Plus comments if they do move back into the Google Plus posting mechanism, the main plus.google.com.
Okay. Any other thoughts on this from anybody in the room?
Yeah, I think my biggest concern about this is kind of related to what I just asked Peter, and that's that Google really needs to kind of convince sites why they should go with them instead of going with Facebook. And I think right now, it's interesting. I think those of us on Google Plus really like the idea, but I don't think they've really sold it to, I don't think they're in a position to sell it to your everyday blogger or your news site. Is the Washington Post going to pick up on this?
Right, and Alan,
go ahead, Peter.
No, to follow up on that, I'm making a bet here, and a lot of the things I'm doing are anticipatory of what's to come. One of the things I'm noticing is RSS is kind of a dying mechanism for discovering content because everybody's going social with the content. It's great to keep a short list of the blogs that I enjoy reading often in my RSS feeds, but I think that's sort of dying down and people aren't using that to discover content as much, even though they may be subscribed to those sites. But what I think is going to be happening, and this is a prediction, in the future, Google is going to offer you the ability to subscribe to posts from certain either brand pages or from profiles so that you may not necessarily receive a notification, but they would be aggregated in a separate area So much like in Facebook, oh, God forbid, I know we're talking about doing the same thing they're doing, but in a much better way, I think Google is going to give you the ability to subscribe to that content. So having that integration on the website, I think, is going to be critical to drive recurring traffic back to your site. But nothing tops email. I mean, you need to have an email marketing system, and that's got nothing to do with Google.
But Peter, Alan, let me just ask you this. We only know about that this is a new commenting framework, right? We all know that whenever a new site comes up, for example, Pinterest, most of the sites let you sign up with the Facebook IDs. That's one of the ways they actually drive up the user base, right? So how do we know that? I know that Google already has a mechanism by which they allow people to sign up to other services. How do we know that they're going to use this just as a commenting system, which Facebook already does for that matter? I think they're going to go one step ahead and make it in such a way, considering the fact that Google is still the biggest, the greatest search engine out there. And don't you think that that is an extra incentive for these new sites to have Google's entire mechanism plugged in to sign up as well as commenting everything?
No, and I agree with you, Streak, but that's contrary to what Vic talked to Guy Kawasaki at the Fireside Talk at South by Southwest, when he basically stated the API is not going to be open for open authentication or things like that. So I think you're going to see a very small group of companies. No, go ahead.
Open authentication's there already. That's
not to your Google Plus profile, though. To your
exactly. Yeah. So why? I'm thinking. I don't know what Vic said to Guy, but I'm saying is if they're gonna come out with a complete package together with the commenting system as well as an authentication, what if they do that?
I think people will still say.
Well, listen,
so
guys.
Because here's why. Although Google is biggest in search and everybody uses Google for search, not everybody logs in to do search.
Okay. First of all, there are winners and losers here. Well, there's definitely a winner, and that's Discuss. If Google is going to integrate them. I think, Peter, let me get your thoughts on this. I think it'd be crazy to dump one for the other. I think you should have both because clearly, 10 times as many people are on Facebook as Google Plus now. That's growing. With Facebook, what you get is you get, when they comment, by default, it will share it. They can uncheck that box, but by default, the box is checked. And when you go to TechCrunch, you don't have to log in, right? If you've just used Facebook, and you open a new tab to check out TechCrunch, you're already there logged in Facebook. So it says posting is Dan McDermott, or in your case, Peter. And when you post it, by default, it's going to say on your wall, Peter G. McDermott just posted a comment on this TechCrunch post. So then TechCrunch gets that traffic because your friends on Facebook will see that you posted it and be curious and click to their article, right? So they're getting incoming traffic. On Google Plus, you're getting straight into Google search with your comment. So I think it's crazy not to put both in there. And this is a huge, huge deal for Discuss because they took a real beating with the Facebook commenting system. Because, for example, I think TechCrunch used it before, and then they switched to Facebook. But I think some of the TechCrunch empire, their gadget blog, I think still uses Discuss. So they're still, they're testing. It's a testing ground as well.
Here's hang on. Here's my concern about hyping up the fact that, oh, hey, it's great that comments are going to go straight into Google search. I think there are a lot of companies that are going to be very, very concerned about that. Because, if you look at some of these news sites, the comments that are in them, not all the comments are positive, and some of them can start spinning the site in a very bad light. So if suddenly what's happening is you're getting indexes of people saying, oh, man, this article sucked,
I think that's becoming less and less of a thing, Alan, because you're seeing more and more people are just leaving stuff up there, unless it's blatant hate speech or the F word, that kind of thing, because people go crazy when you delete their comments, and then there'll be other people like, oh, hey, they deleted this comment, and that becomes the whole thing. They're censoring, it's a free speech news site, but they're censoring our comments, and so they're less and less prone. I'm very, like on my newspaper sites, unless it's like, go by my fake Rolex site, I'm very reluctant to ever delete a post. We always, before I do it, and it's only happened a couple times in years, I will have a discussion with my editors and say, should we do this? How do we deal with this? Because I don't want to delete it.
And Dan, that's my point, and that's the problem, because now if you've got a post up there, it's not going to get deleted. It's now indexed. It's now available on Google. that means that anybody who's looking for something bad about the Washington Post, it's going to come up in the search, and it's going to go straight to a Washington Post page.
What's wrong with that? Because
yeah, exactly.
What's wrong with it is that me as an editor doesn't want that indexed.
So you better change your content. So what I'm saying is, see, if it's an anonymous poster, putting some a lot of sites allow you to just type in whatever username you want and just type in your comment, right?
Right.
But instead of that, now you're actually using your Google Plus profile ID or your Facebook ID, and it appears on you. I mean, if you're gonna leave a nasty comment out there,
yes, oh yes, people do.
Then it is going to show up.
Certainly do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but Aaron.
But that is the actual reality, right? I mean, if they're going to do that, it's going to show up on your. And if you remember what you said.
So what? Hang on.
Yeah, but Aaron, you don't think that Google is going to automatically weight everyone that leaves a comment on blah 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 site with a 10, right? If someone's trolling, Google's going to figure it out, and they might go from anything as low as a 1 to a negative percentage.
Do you really think their algorithms are going to that easily detect trolling?
Well, not in the beginning, but I bet you.
No,
I mean,
if I remember
here's
what
the thing, I would be able to write a comment on an article that could significantly say things about how bad the article is, how bad the author is, and how bad the newspaper is, without sounding like a troll. And that's going to get indexed. And people who want to search for it will find it and will end up
Alan,
on that
that's the
newspaper
price you
site.
pay. That's the price you pay for being in the First Amendment business. I mean, if you're
it's a public arena. What do you expect?
Comments are created by your readers and your visitors are determined by your content. If you go to the Huffington Post or MSNBC, everything is Bush's fault. If you go to the Daily Caller, Glenn Beck's site, everything is Obama's fault.
No, hang on. Let me finish. Let me close up. Let me bring it full
and
circle.
Google does already index comments.
Let me bring it full circle, and then I will stop. Okay, if we're then saying, hey, we have two services. We've got Google, who will guarantee to index all of your comments, and Facebook, who will not index all of your comments. And I'm a newspaper editor concerned about my image.
Alan, I'll throw it to the room. Listen, I'll throw it to the room for a quick round robin. But on this issue, as a newspaper publisher, I can address this. The benefits of having your comments go straight into the pipeline for Google search and be highlighted now that it's search plus your world. So if Peter comments somewhere on a newspaper article, I'm going to see it in Google search up front because we're friends on Google Plus. The benefits of that dramatically outweigh any negatives from trolling or what have you. You're going to go to Facebook because it's going to draw more traffic. You're going to go to Google Plus because it's going to draw more traffic. And I think it's crazy to not have both.
No, I think
here's the time
Jeff
for the
and Oleg
the app to
quick
handle
round robin,
poll.
and let's move on.
I'm gonna vote and say that I agree with Dan here. It's the value of it far outstrips any kind of negative comments.
It depends.
You're driving traffic to your website is what you want, and that's basically it's to your benefit.
It depends. It all depends. I have a business, and I had some character comment, put a really bad negative comment with all kinds of bad words and everything because my driver was driving too close to his bike, and so he puts this rant on Google in one of the reviews about my business. Okay?
Well, wait a minute. What on earth does that have to? You're on a whole nother set of tracks. We're talking about enabling the Google comment system on your website, and you're talking about somebody leaving a bad review for your business. They're not even related.
Yeah.
No, they're entirely related.
See, that's the problem here. You're leaving a comment about something that's totally unrelated to what we're talking about.
No, I'm talking about a comment that could go on Google Plus in the same fashion like it went on Google Reviews. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It's totally related. The guy posted it on Google Reviews. He didn't have a chance to post it on Google Plus because Google Plus wasn't out there at the time. How is it different?
Oleg,
the guy could have just
we're talking about a content comment system to install on your blog outside of Google Plus.
Yeah,
People typically
exactly.
put these things in context. Like when you go to download an app, you'll see, if you see 55-star reviews and then you see one review that says it's a 1-star review and it says it sucks, it wouldn't load on my Motorola Photon. People take that in context and say, okay, well, I have an Evo, it'd probably work, And most people who read these things, read comments on news sites, are fairly intelligent and can weed through that. And we're all accustomed to seeing crazy spam or troll comments. I think that's the price you pay for exposure.
I disagree. I think what Alan says is exactly it, and people will be disappointed that once the stuff starts to get in, it's not all about traffic to your site. It's also about perception about.
But here, look, Oleg, like
traffic
anything
to your
else,
site.
this is going to be. You're going to have an opt-out option here. There's going to be an opt-out. If you don't want to have them indexed, either there's going to be a checkbox or don't put it on your site.
Are you sure about that, Peter?
Then Peter, then that goes back to my question. What's the benefit of going with Google Plus's comments over Facebook's?
If you don't like it, don't install it. Don't put it
either
on.
or?
Jeff,
Why
that's
is it
Oleg's
either or?
argument.
Let me answer that, Alan.
Yeah, it's not either or. It's that the thing is, if they're actually going with Discuss is a platform that you connect multiple networks. I have my WordPress blog, my Gravatar account, my Facebook account, and my Twitter account, as well as my Google Open Authentication account, all connected with Discuss. So every time I leave a comment on Discuss, I'm granted with the option of which network I want to share it with. As a site moderator, I'm not sure. I don't have it installed. Dan, I'm not sure who does have it installed, who has more information as to what is indexed. But I will tell you, any comment system for any content management system, you can moderate the posts before they go.
Yeah,
on
that's
the
an
site.
option. You can do
That's
that.
what
You
I
can
do.
choose to allow them to go
let
up
me-
live, or you can choose to moderate them with the Facebook commenting system.
You don't have to rely on moderating posts instead of doing what
I'm
you're
sure
doing.
Oleg has strict
I wanna
moderation
hear what
on
Sreek
all
has
of
to
his
say.
posts, which he learned.
No, I got one of the WordPress blogs constantly being spammed with all kinds of crap that I have to constantly say, no,
That's
don't put it in, yes, put it in. It takes forever to do all this stuff.
Well, it's called Akismet. Just get the API key. It's free.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was listening to what Dan said, that this is going to show up in your search plus your world. If you remember what Chu said, anything you type publicly is going to be immediately indexed by Google, right? It is a public comment. It doesn't have to be just for your friends or your circle. So it is. Answer to Alan is, somebody searches for something and it can show up. It doesn't just have to be a circle. It is a public comment. You're saying that if you're going to comment on a particular TechCrunch, for example, make a comment, is it just going to show up for the people who are following you? Probably yes, but in the search arena, it is going to show up for everybody. Can Facebook
The
do
Search
that?
Plus shows
No.
up to your relevant circles, to people you associate with, and that's what's so important, because you can judge it. I know everybody in this room has about a 90% rate, right? 10% of the time, Peter, Alan, Oleg, and I go off the deep end, but 90% of the time, we kind of have a clue. And so you can judge, like if Alan Oleg commented on this thing, it's going to pop up quicker, and you can put that in context. There's nothing that beats word of mouth advertising from a friend, That's the best kind of referral.
Including bad word of mouth advertising.
Well, but then you need to look at your product.
First of all, don't forget what Peter said. Peter said that you're going to be able to opt out, and so the whole notion of how useful it is becomes right there something that's not really true, because a bunch of people.
What do you mean opt out,
It's not
Peter?
gonna be a true picture
Elaborate
anymore.
on that. What are you talking about?
Well, if you don't want to install it on your site,
there.
you don't want you
But
don't
you can't
install it on your
opt out.
site. You've
But if you
opted
do it,
out.
it's gonna end up in Google search. But eventually your WordPress comments or any of the discuss option comments, most of those are going to end up in Google search anyway. Eventually, if they're public.
Well, you've got to remember, right now there's do follow links and there's no follow links. So, for example, if Oleg makes a comment on my posts and I have no follow enabled on my comments, that means that link back to his site is not going to be associated. It's not going to count in any SEO algorithms. So I almost wonder if eventually there's going to be a tag that's going to allow you to prevent those comments.
I wonder what percentage of people do a no follow on comments.
Most sites with big reputations, the Mashables, the bigger sites, if you leave a comment on there, it's not going to be credited as a backlink to your site, and those are called no follows.
Right, and Google's pushed the no follow tag actually.
Whoa. The no follow tag means if someone posts a link, it doesn't show up. But does that mean? Are you saying that?
No. The link shows up. It just means it doesn't count as a link back to the site.
But the actual text of the comment would be indexed, right?
Mm-hmm. It will be.
Yes, but that's what I'm saying is in the way that they have the no follow tag, which affects their algorithm. I would not be surprised if later there's a tag that says no index for
That would
comments.
be interesting to see. The no follow thing is mainly a spam prevention tool. It's so you can't go to Huffington Post and post your website in a comment, and then all of a sudden Google thinks that Huffington Post is linking to you, and you get a bigger search ranking. That's what the no follow thing's about.
Yeah. Can I have a follow-up question again to Dan and Peter? Based on your experience with comments, do you think it would be beneficial, and do they provide it now, being able to provide information back to the site owner about, for example, how many comments there are on an article, how many different articles have gotten comments on them, what the return rate is, how many different followers there are, profiles of their followers? Is that something that you think would be useful to a site owner?
Yeah, there's analytics already show social actions and comments, not necessarily Google Analytics, but the analytics for different products that are available out there. Is that kind of what you're asking, Alan?
Well, that's kind of where I'm going. Since Google Analytics is a known product, is a very good product, it's considered fairly good in the industry, I'm wondering if they tie analytics into their commenting system, if that's actually really the payback.
That would be a tremendous payback, absolutely. Now, one of the other things you get is you want to talk about feedback. If somebody does leave a comment, let's say they leave the comment from Facebook. Facebook is a confirm follow service, right? So I can't immediately see who they are or what they're up to when they leave a comment. They would have to confirm me as a friend before I can start open communication with them. I can send them a blind message in most cases. With Twitter, I've got 140 characters to talk to them. But with Google+, when I go back to the person that left the comment, I've got a fairly open path of communication to them.
Yeah, you see, I think that's really the real sell that I hope Google is going to be making to some of these companies in a future they've got built into comments. It isn't the, hey, you'll be able to tap into all of our users, because that's not a good response. It's that, hey, we'll be able to give you all of this demographic information about the users who comment. We'll be able to give you return rates. We'll be able to let you know just how many people are reading and interacting with your articles. And we can give you these great summaries. And we can do this because we've been doing analytics for a decade.
And we got to move, but one thing I'm excited about, one thing I'm really excited about is I hope people will put the Facebook and the Google Plus comments options on their blogs, because this gets back to that now very famous post when Tom Anderson, the founder of MySpace, who's now a big Google Plus fan, posted the same thing on Facebook and Google Plus, and someone did a screen share of all the comments on Facebook, which were like, Tom, marry me, I love you, Tom, lol. And then on Google Plus, it was like, well, this is really interesting. I read in a NASA report. It was just dramatically different. And so it'd be kind of neat to see these back-to-back on these different sites where you see what the Facebook people say and what the Google Plus people say, and the kind of reaction you would get from people as they're viewing those two alternatives. Sincerity is the biggest form of flattery, and a couple things that are being compared to Google Hangouts are in the process, have either debuted or in the process of getting ready to be debuted. We, Oleg and Alan and I, did a quick test, and someone added this in another one. So we weren't going to talk about it yet because it's still kind of in beta. But I'll just do a quick run through and group them together. It's called ontheair.com, and it's I don't know how to describe it yet, but it's sort of it's a way for you to have a show that's video and audio, like a Justin or Ustream show, and then other people can watch it, and then you can click and add them one at a time and talk to them, and it's sort of like a hangout. It's sort of like what I do when I do a split shot. Like right now, I can hit this button and I bring Alan in on my side, and then I can click here and switch it to Oleg on my side and with his Google bandana. And then Sarik, I think that's the point. I think that's what you do, and then so I think that's what's going on. And then there's this other one, and Alan, I'll go to you in a second. But that's ontheair.com, and then this other one, it's Evinar. I'm not sure. You added that at the last minute, so I have no idea what it is. So Alan, what are your? I'll go to you first because you know about both these, and then Oleg. You know, and we'll be kind because Josh was super. We did a hangout with the CEO of On the Air, and he was super interested in our feedback. And there was a few glitches, you know, because it's beta, but super nice guy. We're very excited about about you know, playing around with the product that he has, and so we'll see where it goes, and we'll have more, you know, in the weeks to come, update on that. But I don't think it's the first thing is these are not Hangout killers. These are not true competitors to Google Plus. These are neat new things that do different things, and we welcome, you know, all new arrivals. So Alan, what are your thoughts on this, on these two, and explain what Evinar is, because I have no clue. Man,
the perfect timing. The guy just does perfect.
I think he's deliberately sabotaging the show.
Oleg,
may I ask a question,
Jeff,
to Oleg? So you actually demoed it?
Yeah, we've played with it a little bit. Yeah.
So we demoed with On the Air, and how was the quality, and how did it?
It's.
But like Dan said,
there were some glitches, but Oleg will agree with me. The CEO was a super stand-up guy. He was actually in a therapy session.
The guy
yeah, he took my call. He was really interested. Go ahead, Oleg. What were your thoughts? You know,
the easiest way to describe it, it's like think of a stage, and on the stage you have somebody who is a host, and they bring up people from the audience to interact with the host. And then when the one person leaves the stage, then the other person comes in, and you can have up to 5,000 of these people coming in and out. That's one thing it does.
So does he randomly pick people, or how does the audience let him know that he want to speak?
I'm sure they have some tools. We just couldn't get that far. So that's why I don't want to comment, which I don't know. And then the other thing basically is that when the host leaves the stage, the idea is that this is ongoing, constant show. Somebody else can then take the stage, and now they're the host with whoever else they want to talk to. So the idea is you're always talking to two people at the same time, and of course the chat has all up to 5,000 other people available, and then they just keep switching out as often as they need to be in this kind of a show host environment that's going on. That's basically what
so it's basically a split screen type in scenario. Exactly. Got it. And then you only either see one person or two people at one time.
You see two all the time.
And I think you can switch back and forth in the same way that I switched the shots in the show here, but we'll have to play with it some more. It was really early, and we got exposed to some stuff I don't want to say we can't talk about, but it wouldn't be polite to talk about, but like their future things are rolling out. So it looks really interesting, and I applaud what they're doing. It's going to be fun to play with, and we may end up doing a show there on a different topic or something to test it out. And what kind of it is, and I'm sure Peter is just drooling to get his hands on this platform. I know he'll want to do it because basically, Peter, you can get your own channel, right? And you'll be able to have folks that I think anyone can do. It's kind of vague right now. We really didn't use it enough to speak with authority on it. Once they get kind of more stable, whatever, we'll get Josh on, and he can tell us about it. But yeah, what if, Peter, you could have your own channel on this thing, and it's kind of like it's got the public chat built into it, which is cool, that we've always wanted with the Hangouts. It's got some neat things. They've kind of cherry picked some neat features from Hangouts and Skype and different things, and put them together. So I would encourage everyone to check it out, and as we are, and it's a neat thing. And is Alan back?
No.
It's almost like a video radio show. If you wanna.
Yeah, I think it's more. Yeah. I think it's less of a social. Let me talk to my sister or my girlfriend. It's more folks who do shows like I do.
It's a class. It's a video classroom, right?
It's So is it basically Blog Talk Radio with video?
And I even told him, I said, I even said, I hope it emerges as something like Google Plus, Hangouts, and the shows that like Peter and I do, that you have interaction with people and people watch, as opposed to Blog Talk Radio, which is mainly a bunch of show producers and very little audience. And it's just the show producers hitting each other up to listen to each other's shows, but there's really not a lot of people who just go to Blog Talk Radio, from what I saw, and actually just go there to listen. I think everyone wants to be a host.
And here's Alan.
What was the limit on the number of people that could attend?
One, but it's one at a time, right? Oh, is it 5,000?
5,000 is the limit.
That should be
yeah.
adequate. Alan, what were your
5,000
Josh
thumbnails.
was terrific. It was fun. I got to tell a funny anecdote about why we
It
called
was, it was a
Josh.
great. Dan, let me.
Okay.
Dan, let me
Okay.
talk quickly before I get disconnected again. Because that's going to happen at any moment with my network tonight. I think on the air, it has some interesting concepts, and I think it's pretty neat. I think the biggest issue with it is you framed it in terms of a show, and I think on the air is actually intended for people to build whole networks and to have multiple shows on each network and to have hosts for each of those shows with scheduled times and so forth. I think that the best analogy of it is if you think of what modern talk radio stations are like these days. It's really trying to let you set up a talk radio station with video. And the analogy is actually pretty close in my mind. It seems like
One of the guys
model.
used to work
I
at
think
Google, and they've clearly looked at Blog Talk Radio, and they've looked at Hangouts, and they've looked at different things, and they've kind of come up with a new thing that's different. And frankly, Oleg and Alan and I looked at it, and we looked at all the stuff and their plan for the future, and we aren't really exactly sure what the heck's going on. But it looks promising, and it'll be fun to play with, and we'll do that over the next course of the week, and we'll have an update. And this other thing, Alan, before you get nuked,
this other thing, I read the article on it quickly, and TechCrunch seems pretty excited about it. I looked at it and I'm going, who in the world cares? I mean, basically, it looks like it's a.
What is it?
I don't know. What is it called again, Dan? I don't even
it was
have
called. I've got it in front of me. It's called Evinar.
Oh my God, that thing looks like a train wreck and a half.
I'm just reading on the TechCrunch article on it, I'm going, who in the world cares? I mean, it lets you do things like share pictures.
But you know what?
live.
The TechCrunch article.
Well, reading that TechCrunch article, it looked like they had a hand in it.
Yahoo Messenger had that like a
The
year back,
TechCrunch
right?
article
5 years
on the air was not at all what we experienced. So don't judge it by that, right?
Okay.
Well, I'm trying not to, but the TechCrunch article, it talks about the things that you can do. It says that basically all of the really neat things that you can do, like slideshows of your pictures live, is available through the paid model. And that was their biggest criticism, is warning about how the free model, how they might not get any traction because all of the good stuff is in the paid model. I think they're not going to get any traction because nobody cares.
Okay, so it's cool. Any final thoughts on this? And then we're going to get up to mysteriously disappearing posts and notifications and all that stuff. A veritable ratings bonanza, if you will.
Yeah. I just want to say that from watching the on the air little video that they have on their website, doesn't really describe what
It's still vague,
is.
and they need some marketing help. Maybe they could get the Muppets to do a video for them. I think the TechCrunch article clearly put them on the map. But again, if our interaction with Josh was any indication of the rest of their team, they're gonna, they care very much. They're as engaging as Google on, when they're engaging, and good for them.
Hiding in here, but I think the platform needs work, and I think it's got a relatively small target.
Yeah, we'll see.
audience
If they
for
can
their
conquer,
sales.
if they can avoid what I call the incestuous Blog Talk Radio problem, where you have too many hosts and not enough audience, Google Plus gets that right. I mean, there's a lot more folks who watch. There are more people who absorb content on Twitter and Google Plus than produce it, and there are more people who produce content than watch it or absorb it on Blog Talk Radio. If they can make it great for the content producers, but still deliver that audience in a great form that's engaging and interactive and new, and a step up from what's currently available, then God bless them, and good for them. Okay, so are you seeing all of your posts? Many people aren't, is the title of this. I see Priz. I know that Peter wants to weigh in on this as well. And also I'm seeing some notification issues. I'm randomly stumbling on in my stream posts that mention me. And I was like, well, I never got an email, and I've got that turned on, and I never got the red, thing. So what's the deal with that? What's this story, Alan?
There are a whole bunch of things going on in the stream. Since I first posted this, I've gotten messages from people who never saw messages in their stream. I've gotten comments from people who never got notifications that they were supposed to get. I've heard of people, and this is the weirdest one of all, who started reporting they were getting messages in their stream from people they've never heard of. And people would say, "Oh, that's just the what's hot." No, these are smart people who know what a what's hot post looks like and turned it off. And they're just getting these random comments. I've seen posts that have disappeared. There's all sorts of weird things were going on with the stream earlier this week. I'm not entirely sure if they settled down, but I think they have a little. I haven't heard as much of it recently, but a lot of weird things were going on. Peter, what did you see?
Yeah, definitely over the past week, I saw a total drop in interaction, and it sounds narcissistic to say that, but when you have 45,000 followers and you're posting the same type of content, and then for 3 days straight, nobody says anything about it, a little bit weird. I actually had a comment today on one of my posts from one of the people that diligently follows me that said, "Hey, are you okay? I haven't seen you posting in days. Is everything all right?" And he literally looks for my stuff and hasn't seen it come across the stream in days. So, definitely something going on. There's been a lot of conversation in the back channel about whether or not people are being turned down. I'm not seeing things from people that I've turned the whole way up. I'm seeing a lot more stuff from people that I don't care to hear from.
Yeah, one of the biggest things that I think we were able to at least somewhat solidly trace this to is for people who end up being in two circles, one that's a very high volume and one that's a very low volume. It seems like what is happening is that it's listening to the low volume circle, not the high volume one. Now, Google engineers more than once said that it's supposed to be going to the high volume one, but this sounds like a case of a coding bug. Now, I think all of these things are bugs, and I think Google will work them out. But it's gotten very disconcerting to a lot of people to suddenly wonder what in the world happened.
Does it work that way?
Another weird bug that I saw that I'm trying to figure out is I've made a number of posts this week all with the same hashtag, but they don't show up if you search for the hashtag. Some of them do, some of them don't, and it's not entirely clear which ones are and which ones aren't.
About this high volume and low volume thing you mentioned, does it work the same way if you actually click on the circle?
No, if you click on the circle, you'll see what's in the circle. That appears to be working correctly. But that's because when you click on the circle, it ignores the volume setting. It shows you everything in the circle.
Right. Okay.
The volume setting just tells you what shows up in the main stream.
Actually, I'm going to go ahead and disagree with that right now. And I'm going to show you why. Let's take a look. We're going to do a little screen share here. So I have a circle called Family Circle, and like most of the people on Google+, there's not terribly a lot of my family here. I have put myself in the Family Circle. I've clicked the Family Circle. The last post to show up on this stream is from March 14th.
Yeah, interesting. And your volume's all the way up.
And the volume is the whole way up. We've got March 14th. We've got January 31st.
And I saw a post from Peter, when this Hangout started. So there's an interesting problem.
No, there's some deal. I posted a comment on one of the posts, and then next thing I know is they see the same comment in a completely different post. And I'm like, this is totally wrong because it was just one liner. I knew exactly what it was. And so I have no idea why I did that. So that's one thing I for sure saw that was completely screwed up. That was yesterday.
Yeah, another thing that would be beneficial is if you could manage the volume.
That's the thing, Peter, isn't it? I want to control that. I don't want it to be like Facebook where there's some backroom algorithm that controls that. And I don't really understand how it works. And I miss stuff. And I have to go. In Facebook, you have to. Sometimes I'll go and like, I haven't seen a post or anything from this person that I just ran into in the grocery store. And I'll go into Facebook and I'll have to type their name in the search, even though they're my friend, right? And then I'll go and I'll discover all this neat stuff. It's like they take over that algorithm, and I don't really understand how it works or have any controls. It really should be, I don't know. It's broken. It should be, you should have an option of just show everything or whatever circle I click on, or, the slider, which is still kind of vague about the actual impact, right? I don't really understand how that works.
Yeah.
Or maybe there should be some default third option where you can say like posts based on how many people you've commented on or interacted with or whatever.
No, but I think it's a bug. I think it's a problem. It's not an issue of you not showing things right. I think like Alan said, it's a bug. I cannot put a comment in one post and then see it in a totally different post. as some sort of slider, feature. It just plain.
The
landed
first
in the wrong
inkling we
place,
had on
in two
this,
places.
Oleg, was when Linda was on, and she was talking about how the problem she had, she wasn't getting notifications.
Right, but she's got tons and tons of followers.
And I
It's a little
assumed
different.
it was just because it wasn't something I had experienced until now. This could be a whole different thing because this is getting, it's a complicated beast anyway, and it's getting more so as they add more things. So there'll be bugs like this that go on. Jeff?
Yeah, they like Alan said, they probably tried to optimize something and broke it, and that's what happened. And then as soon as they figure out what they did, they'll revert it back.
Sometimes I get a comment in email before I actually see a notification on Google Plus that of that particular comment. So I can actually see the message before theoretically Google Plus hasn't even indicated that that's been the case, but they already sent me email on the subject, and I already got it. So it's just, a lot. Also, sometimes you have a situation where you post and you end up posting an answer before the person, it winds up being out of sync in terms of your comments. I
think it's like at Sheets or Wawa when you order a sandwich. I think the delivery order is when you first start to order, not when you click send. Is that how it works?
But
or is it the opposite?
Yeah, but I think that saved me a $600 PC and a webcam to Alan, because
I mean
we had a bet going, and Oleg just snuck in there with the little comment, and then I withdrew my bet.
That's right.
These two notifications, I mean, the message showing up on the email as well as on Google Plus, they can never be in sync. What I'm saying is these two are two separate services.
No, but Srik, here's the example. I was talking to actually one of the Googlers. He posts something to me. Okay, I see that coming up. I write a response to it. I post it, and it winds up being before his initial post went in. So when you look at this stream, you actually wind up my answer to his post before his post.
Because he checked the comment in your mail, right?
I don't know why. It just seems like they delayed it so much that they send me email. I responded, but they wound up putting his deal after mine.
That's what I'm saying. Enthusiasts like you cannot or don't really wait to see what the comment is on Google Plus. You probably see it on the mail and you immediately check it and you start typing. So what I'm saying is these two are two entirely different services. The queuing is different.
Right.
Everything is different. So I mean, it is actually very.
Sri, sure, the queuing and the scheduling is different, but email is designed as a delayed system, while notifications are intended as more of a real-time system.
Absolutely.
So when you see, when you see them reversed, you're a little confused. I mean, I think overall it seems like there are a ton of bugs, and they've been very prominent in the past week. I don't want to belabor the point. I don't want to go into every single bug we find on the system.
Yeah.
But it seems like we've gotten a lot of them picking up over the past week or so. And my hope, this is my personal hope, is that that's an indication that they've got a lot of really cool changes coming out, and they were just ironing out all the bugs, and that we'll see the announcement of the changes soon, especially now that it seems like hopefully the bugs have gotten tapered off.
I remember, Alan, remember when you first said, hey, Dan, did you see, is there an apps button that appeared or disappeared or something, and is something coming down the pike? And, we were like, oh, and you start, foam started coming down your mouth and wisps of smoke. And lo and behold, a couple weeks. And I'll tell you one thing. When Chichu tells you, ask me that again in a month or in 2 weeks, almost
you said a week.
Almost to the word. One thing he did say that I didn't mention in the intro that was really cool, and I encourage everyone to watch our conversation with him from a few days ago. Look on, I think, Oleg, you shared it. Alan, did you share it? Go to any of our profiles and you'll see it. Mm-hmm. It was a great, we did a hangout. And the title of it is, we learned some stuff from Chichu or something. He just popped into our hangout, and it was great. And he told us a bunch of things, and you really should watch it. Or my description kind of has some highlights there. But one of the things was I asked about the ability to name a regular hangout. I think that's very important, so people know. Like, are you talking about poker, or is everyone naked, or what's the deal? And so it'd be neat if you could name and define a hangout. In that way. So, based on the fact he said, ask me again in a couple of days, right, Oleg? With a smirk on his face and his awesome Google Plus hoodie, and yes, we're jealous. But anyway,
You know what is refreshing about the notification bug versus the email issue? What we're talking about is that Oleg actually thinks that it's a big bug. And I have to counter Oleg saying that no, it's okay, at least for the time.
well, how many people have used Circled?
Which notification?
Yeah.
Which
Me?
notification?
Thousands.
And don't
That's
you
it.
want to know when? I mean, because like I rely on some of the stuff you post is really interesting. Peter will, and everyone here will, when they post something that they think is interesting to me, they'll mention me or share it with me. In the bottom, when you say circles, extended circles, Dan McDermott, and I'll get a note. I rely on those because I'll miss stuff otherwise. There's great content I'll miss.
Oh yeah, I'm saying this problem happens only when you are looking both into your email system as well as your notification.
You don't have to, yeah. No, but here's the deal, Dan. The only problem is when you have, how many followers do you have?
I don't know, 200, 300?
No. Dan, how many
I've
followers do you
got
have?
13,000 or something. I don't know.
13,000. And right now you're getting quite a few notifications.
I get when I wake up in the morning, I've got 15 or something, and then throughout the day I get a bunch.
Okay, now let's look at Peter. Peter, you got what, 45,000 followers?
Yeah, that's correct.
How many notifications do you get?
The thing is, notifications are really broken. I use mobile and I use web. I have to keep up with them throughout the day. Because the problem is when you actually use the little red notification thing, as soon as you click that, you can only see the top 9 things there, and then it's done. You've lost whatever you've clicked on or what you haven't clicked on. It is a total mess.
I hate that.
So you can go through the email filters and try to find
Did
stuff.
you click on show notifications?
Yeah, but I get, to answer your question, I get over 150 notifications a day.
So that's my point there. My point is that when you get people like Peter or more, look at Linda. I'll bet you she even gets, how many followers does she have?
But you're taking it out of context, though. You got to remember, we're not the common user on here. There's only a couple thousand.
But Linda, when you're at that level, when you're at a million, you have to turn off notifications except for people you follow, and that's an option because you just can't possibly keep track.
That was my point. So notifications, you got to, when you say that you're not getting everything, they need to either redo it somehow, or it doesn't make any sense for you to get everything. You'll never be able to.
I'm guessing. My guess is, and Peter, what are your thoughts? My guess is that they're working on spam controls, and they're trying to, because there are some spam. I mean, we all get followed every day by weird characters who disappear. Like your follow count will suddenly go down, and they'll delete them. And I'm thinking that they're probably seeing people gaming the system, and they're trying to tackle that. And they're kind of it's a slight overreach right now because they haven't got the algorithm just right. That's my totally speculation.
I think that's a really good guess, Dan. I mean, we've been told by Google that anti-spam and anti-troll controls are the big thing that
because that's a real strength for Zuckerberg and Facebook. They do a good job on that. Much better than Twitter does, and it should be a priority. But I guess maybe right now they're still working out the kinks. And as soon as they get it right, then the spammers will come up with a new way, and they'll have to, so this will be an ongoing issue. Sarik?
No, but the bottom line is you don't want to get a ton of notifications, otherwise it defeats the purpose of the feature
That's true.
itself.
That's a good point.
We can't cope with too many notifications.
We also should look at it from a different angle. Do you really think when Google originally designed this, Google thought that people are going to have thousands and thousands of followers? I mean, in Facebook, so
you never know.
And in Twitter, I don't use Twitter, but I don't know that there's a notification mechanism at all in Twitter. In Facebook, if you are not somebody who is like a public figure, you don't have too many subscriptions, and I don't know whether you can post to that person also. But ideally, if somebody has like 1,000 friends in Facebook, that's okay. But if you have somebody like Peter who has 50,000 followers, imagine, I don't think Google designed the notification system keeping in mind that people are going to have so many followers. So I agree.
They probably think like the average, like I'm average, well, I think I'm average anyways. I don't really post that often. I get maybe 10 notifications a day. I have 400 followers, I follow 800 people, so that's probably what the normal person gets.
That's what it was designed for.
That's what it's designed for, right? Exactly.
So
and when you get into Sarah Hill territory, it just doesn't work.
That's a problem. Public figure, you have to censor it. It sucks, but that's the deal. Okay, I'm looking at some comments here on this issue from I don't know if it's Rickard or Ricard Gronholm. I think I'm masking your name, and I humbly apologize. You're a good guy. He said, I've experienced some problems with the sliders. He said, I can adjust it for circle A. I can click on circle B, and when I return to A, it's like I never touched it. Sometimes I've had to do this 5 or 6 times until it works. I wonder if that's the delay similar to sometimes, although it's gotten better lately, but when you circle someone, sometimes you have to wait a little bit. Do you see that, Peter? Like if you're trying to circle or add someone or switch someone from one circle to another, that you might see, you might have to pause a minute before you switch to a new tab or something, or the circle change won't take.
I'm actually playing around with the sliders right now to experiment with that. In all honesty, I think the volume thing's silly. I think if you're interested in following people, then you follow them. If you're not interested, then you go visit them upon occasion.
I
The problem
respectfully
is when you
disagree
have
with you,
people
Peter,
in
but-
multiple circles, you run into an issue. But I'm trying right now to slide them up and down, and it does seem that it's retaining the volume
That's
levels
interesting
for me.
comment, Peter. What do you think, Alan? Because that gets back to the airplane cockpit versus the simple.
I disagree. I disagree with Peter. I mean, I think they could have done a better job in how they're implementing the volume control. But I think the volume control itself is a very good idea.
What about this, Alan?
There are circles that
What
I
about
don't
this?
follow,
Instead of the
that I have
volume,
nothing
what
to do
about
with.
just saying this? Include this circle in my stream or not, in my main stream or not?
No, that's not how I use volume control.
No, I like that, Dan, because you're talking about the innovation of the idea of the RSS feed, which is with RSS, it's not pushed to me. I go and pull it when I want to at my convenience, and everything that's been updated is there. I like that idea. Alan, I am going to agree with you. It could be done a lot better. If it was done better, I would like it more. But at this point, it seems to be so broken for most users that it's almost better.
All right, let me ask.
Right. I mean, I think.
Let me do a
can't you
quick
turn the
poll.
slider all the way down
I'm
and
going to
turn
do
it off?
Hold on, I want to do
Turn
a quick
that-
poll. Alan, here's my question. Typically, okay, for me, when I go to Google Plus, I rarely click on a specific circle on the left and look at just that stream. I mainly go to Google Plus and I look at everything for my circles. And at some point, I adjusted some sliders, and I think I moved you guys up to whatever. I really don't understand how much weight that gives or whatever. But I do. Sometimes I'll go to my main stream and I'll see a post from Oleg or Alan or Sarik or Peter or whoever who I've given an slider all the way up. Anybody who's here, and I'll see that post at the top of the stream, and there's been no activity, no +1s, no comments. It wasn't generated for a day, but it'll be at the top of the stream. Whereas before it used to be a timeline, and so.
Oh no, you've discovered another bug. Because I've seen that bug
so
too,
here's my
but
question.
I'm pretty sure that's
How
a
many
bug.
of you guys typically will view your stream by just looking at the main stream, and how many of you do what Lori does, where she will click on individual circles and look at just, look at the Googler circle or whatever?
What
do you do mainly,
I'll give you my
Alan?
answer. I almost never click on an individual
Okay,
circle.
me too. Anthony,
Yeah.
are you there still? We have an odd gap in the. Okay, Jeff.
Yeah, I think the issue,
Jeff,
Dan.
real quick poll, and then when you talk about it, Peter.
Yeah.
Jeff, do you typically go just
Yeah.
mainstream, or do you select?
Yeah. I mainstream, and I just turn down the what's hot all the way
Oleg,
down.
do you
That's it.
typically just look at the mainstream, or do you choose your circles?
I typically look at the mainstream, but you got to remember there is an extension that allows you to turn on individual. You can basically check off a specific group of circles, so it works really well if you don't have a lot of circles. But of course, it's useless. if
Sarik,
have
do you
tons of
mainly
circles.
look just at your mainstream, or do you
So
select all your little
I don't
circles?
use it. I don't use it.
I use it completely differently. I know who are the people I follow diligently. I have them all in my following circle, and I go click on that. First thing I do in the morning, if I'm going on G+, I go there, I read all the posts. I'm pretty sure it's going to update more. Then, when I've just left it alone, I'm going to click on the main
Okay,
stream and
so
follow it.
go
and
ahead.
The extension that Oleg mentioned is called plus minus. Or
Okay.
minus plus.
All right,
If you
Peter,
really wanna
answer my
use that.
question and then say what you wanted to say. And I still think it would make sense instead of a slider. I mean, not to say dismiss the slider, but I think that's complicated and it's vague and you don't really understand how it works. If they could just say include this or don't include the circle on mainstream, and if I'm following someone to be polite, but I really aren't interested all the time in what they're saying and I'm getting flooded, then I would like to say, like, I want callers 1, 2, 3, 4. I have like 8 caller circles, and I have influencers and, you know, certain news sites that I'm interested in. I'd like to put them in my mainstream, so I don't have to click to go through. I want to make it easier. But what's your answer to that general question? Do you typically just look at your mainstream, or you know, click circle?
Yeah, Oleg made a good point. Circles are complicated. There's no intuitive way to sort them. There's a couple that I look at upon occasion. I'd like circle management to be more intuitive so I could visit them better. Dan, you make a great point. If I adjust the volume on my electric guitar, I still hear all the notes I play. It is very vague if you turn something down, if you're going to miss the important stuff or just get more noise. It should be a toggle on or off.
How do you normally do it? Do you typically, when you wake up and you're going to check your stream, once you're done with your notifications, do you just leave it on the mainstream and see what pops up? Or do you click on individual things? It's like clicking on the individual things is too much work, but let's look at the mainstream. You get too much garbage. And so I find that I'm looking at the posts less and less, and maybe I'll rely on my notifications to drive what content I'm looking at. It's kind of self-defeating. I don't know how to describe the phenomenon I'm describing. But do you typically look at that mainstream, or do you selectively choose circles to look at?
Well, you know, back to the RSS argument, when looking, typically I look at the stream, but when looking at the individual circles, it takes too much time. There's too much space for every post. When you visit an individual circle, I'd like to see them condensed so it's an easy scan through to pick, oh, that's one of the guys I want to read. Let's see this post. The posts take up too much real estate. If you could condense them and I can see 10 or 20 in one screen, it'd be a lot easier to choose.
All right. I know Alan and go ahead, guys.
1 second, yeah. Here, have you looked at that G+Me extension?
Exactly.
You know, I'm anti-extension because I don't like recommending them to clients because I'm not sure of what data they're storing, what purpose they have for the data, and it's also hogging additional system resources. So I don't even like to discuss extensions, with the exception of Hangout Canopy.
Since Oleg mentioned G+Me, I have to say that that's one of the best extensions I've seen to do exactly what you mentioned. You can fold whichever post you want, and it won't take that much space or that much real estate. But at the same time, it's broken now.
It is, yeah. But he said he's going to.
Well, and that's a big problem with Google. That's one of the biggest problems with extensions. But Google does pay attention to the extensions. They do, you know, at least try to start incorporating some of the stuff in as best they can.
Yeah, because that would be very
logical to them. I want to, you know, I understand that works good for Peter. I'm not going to tell Peter that he's using it wrong, but I think the slider is a great feature, and here's why. It addresses one of the biggest information overload problems that we have when dealing with RSS. RSS is you like to keep comparing it to RSS. That was an all or nothing thing. I either got everything from this site or I got nothing from this site. What the slider lets me do is say, whoa, this guy just sends out tons and tons of cat pictures. He sends 20 cat pictures an hour. Now, occasionally, I like to see his cat pictures, and some of them are cute. So, I don't want to turn them off, but, I just can't deal with 20 cat pictures a minute.
Yeah, but the problem with that, Alan, is how do you know if you're getting the cute cat pictures or just the ugly ones when you're turning it down?
Exactly.
It's a valid point. And the way
you're turning down quantity, not necessarily quality.
Yeah, but aren't they doing it by the number of reshares or something?
That's the important point, exactly what Peter said. The trick, I think, to the whole thing, it's not some tool, it's who you circle, number one, and number two, what kind of content they present. There's no way, I don't think anybody, Google or anybody else, can come up with a magic bullet that would be able to give you an ideal situation. So they're trying to mimic something, give you something to say, well, if this is too much, we'll give you less. But like Peter says, you're getting less, but you're getting crap instead of getting the good stuff, potentially.
I don't necessarily think that. I'll admit that when I've got a slider set to somewhere in the middle, I'm trusting their algorithm to pick what is best for me. But I got to tell you,
what is best for you?
Well, hang on, Sri. But I got to tell you, got to realize Facebook is doing this now, and there's no way to set the volume on maximum.
Here's my
I can tell you how I use the biggest problem I have with the slider is that the default is not max. That I think is a big mistake on Google's part. Now I can and setting it on max by default goes back to the learning how to do things in addition and learning in a progression. You should start out by defaulting that you see everything. And then at some point you're going to say, whoa, there's just too much stuff in my stream. And you're going to turn to a friend and say, how do I cut this down? And they're going to say, oh, you didn't know about the slider? And that's when they teach you what you need to know, how to turn it off, how to turn it somewhere in the middle. That, I think, is an intelligent progression. I think it's a good example of an intelligent progression. But starting out in the middle, that's a mistake.
You said,
Well, then, Alan, what if when you go to create the circle, because every time you create a new circle, you have to be given you have to type the name of it. What if there was an additional prompt that said, what would you like to set the volume of this circle?
I think that would also be a brilliant place for it. In fact,
put that in the show notes, Dan.
And in fact, one of the problems that I've got both with the slider and with how they manage what's visible in chat is the fact that both of those controls are nowhere near the circle controls. They're completely separate and divorced, and I think that's a big mistake. I think that's a really bad precedent that Google made in keeping all of those controls separate. Anything that has to do with the circle should be at the circle. You can put it elsewhere, but it should be.
I think there are
at
two
the circle.
things for the show notes, Peter. One is that Alan and Oleg agreed on something, and the other thing is that Alan thinks you're a genius, which is key.
Yeah, please do remark
I do
that on
think
there.
we should.
Yeah.
Alan, since you mentioned what is best for
Sreek,
you when you
let
do
me
a
say one
volume
thing
control.
and then throw it to you. Hold your thought. Don't get an ADHD moment there. But I think that circles are key, or the volume slider and all that stuff is key, because that's one of the biggest disengagement problems we have is they go there and they don't find relevant content. Now, we can sort through and we'll discuss these things and go into great detail because we're tech geeks. But for Joe user or Sally user, it's a big deal when they don't find relevant content. And it should be, Facebook does it to the extreme and overdoes it. But they try to, their goal is to find the content that is most engaging to you and present that to you. And Google Plus hasn't quite gotten that right. Facebook may be overdoing it because we all know if you use Facebook that there are posts you miss because, and you have to, like I said, I have to search out certain people I haven't talked to in a while, and I find all this interesting stuff that I've been missing because Facebook has been filtering it out. So they're the arbiter. And Google Plus is trying to figure that out, and this is a tough nut to crack, really. I'm not sure the best way to do it. We've come up with some great suggestions here tonight, but this is a problem, and it's a big problem that they really need to focus on, right? Because this is, I would say, a primary cause of disengagement from these folks that we see coming, and they've posted in July once or twice, and they didn't find anything that what I call the social return on investment for your time. What are your thoughts?
Was that directed to anyone in particular?
It's a round robin. Go for it.
I think circles are the key. Or one really good solution to solving the information overload problem at the same time solving the finding out what's interesting problem. I think the problem and what they need to do is that the controls for circles are still a touch too difficult. I think they did a good job at the beginning, and I think they've made them more difficult over time, and we haven't found a good balance yet. What do you think, Sreek?
I don't use volume control much, but I agree to the fact that you go in to actually do the volume control inside the circle may not be very intuitive. But at the same time, I still think that if you to know that, since I don't use the volume control, I should know from you when you actually say you do 50% of a particular circle, which what are you really doing? What are you really reducing there? And how does Google pick what is good for you? What is
well, I counter that by asking you, how does Google pick what's good for you when you do a search on something? And the answer is they're not going to tell you.
What I'm saying is it based on the number of comments or number of shares or the popularity of a particular post within that circle?
Sreek, they're not going to tell us. But
Okay.
Facebook doesn't tell us how they pick what the right articles are either. What
Right.
they're both trying to do is they're trying to automatically separate the wheat from the chaff for us.
I think my approach in this scenario is, as I said, I have one circle which I follow all the people all the time, and I go there. Circle wise, I mean, going to the if you're following a lot of people, going to the mainstream can be really. You see a lot of unwanted stuff. You see, I mean, and without folding, without the amount of real estate it's going to take, it's really painful. If you're actually following just a bunch of people, just put them all in one circle, put the volume control to the highest, be happy. That's what I do. I'm not saying it's a very effective mechanism, the volume control, but it is something. And
it's ironic that and I want to move on to the rest. Let's bust out these topics because we're going crazy length here. But it's ironic that as much as we've complained about the 5,000 follow limit, you can only follow 5,000 people. And those of us with over 5,000 people who have circled us, you cannot follow them all back, right? But imagine how much this problem would be compounded if we could follow everybody back. And if Peter had 45,000 people in his circles, like you might do on Twitter, but trying to sort through this, it becomes this hellish nightmare. And it's a problem. I mean, there is a list feature in Facebook that nobody uses. And the circle thing, I mean, all of us are guilty of this, right? This is spring cleaning. We haven't, I mean, Alan, come on. Have you really, or Peter, I mean, we don't do a good job of this, of actually sorting through. It's kind of a hassle. And I wish it were less so.
I can tell you how most of my circles, for the most part, most of the people I follow are organized into 3 circles. Follow high, follow medium, follow low. Okay, and mostly what happens is I'll put a person in follow medium. If I start seeing their stuff more and more, I'll bump them up to high. And if I start seeing the stuff that they're posting is more annoying than anything else, I'll either remove them or put them into follow low. That's a simple and fairly effective solution for me. Now, I've got a few circles that are grouped by topic, and those are mostly my send circles, not my receive circles, and all of those are set on high because I know I'm interested in those people. It's an interesting attempt at a solution that I think is actually pretty good. It's basically saying, look, if you're the type that instead of going to your mainstream because you've got too much stuff in your mainstream, if what you do usually is go to your list of circles, and you find that you're mostly going to these circles A, B, and C, and only occasionally going to circle D, and very rarely going to circle E, well, hey, that's a volume control. But it's up to you. Google is saying, hey, we can do this for you. At least. And
this doesn't sound like a great way to get the soccer moms who are on Facebook to come over here to Google+. Peter, any thoughts on this? And let's roll out here.
Let's go.
No, I think it's great that we can talk about the issues we're having in such great detail. It means the concept is there. It just needs a little.
And I will say this, Peter. On your point that you're getting less engagement now because of this bug, I follow you, and you're in my callers one circle, which has the highest slider, right? I rarely see your posts. The only time I see your posts is if I randomly check the What's Hot list and you have something up there, or if someone mentions me in a comment on one of your posts. And that's a problem, because I'm interested in what you post, because you post a lot of, a wide variety of different things. But I shouldn't have to, and Linda, like sometimes Linda, I won't hear from her for a while, and then she'll randomly go to my stream, and I'll get a million comments and pluses and things from her, Linda Laurie, because she just happened to stumble upon it. But that's a problem because it's supposed to be social. It's not, you shouldn't be hidden, you know what I mean? Because we're friends and you're part of the show, and I shouldn't have to make an effort to seek out your content and be, at the same time, I'm seeing content I'm not at all interested in my stream frequently. That's the problem.
Here's what
how do they conquer this?
Here's what it boils down to. It seems like there's a bug. I think all of us agree there need to be good ways to make sure we see what we want to see less of what we don't care about. Hopefully this means that Google is working on exactly that, and hopefully they'll iron out these bugs really soon, because it's really beginning to bug people.
Pardon the pun. I know Oleg is trying to seek out a way that he can minimize all of my posts while maximizing everyone else's. All right, Alan, what do we got left here? We got some teases, or I guess some of that's been done. Vanity URLs, Google Drive. You want to hit the rest of these things? Let's do a machine gun round and then close it out with our final thoughts. And then just do sort of the after hangout, after party, for whoever wants to join us.
Can commence. The comments, we've talked about the comments already. Vanity URLs are coming. I think we're going to take that up on a later discussion so Oleg and I can severely disagree with each other on it. Both of those were the stuff that came out of a Google presentation in Saudi Arabia. So we'll see how all that eventually evolves. A lot of rumors coming out about Google Drive, which is basically going to be a competitor to Dropbox, so everyone thinks. Rumors are saying that we'll be seeing that within the next couple of weeks.
Why would Google just release another one of these storage solutions if there are like a ton of them already out there? Usually Google betters what they do. Usually, right? I mean, so I think that if it's going to come out anytime soon, there could be some kind of integration with the existing services what Google has.
But see, here's the problem with the existing services out there: is they're not social.
Right. No, I'm not just saying about social. I actually put this comment out there when I was having a discussion with all.
Was there sarcasm there, Peter? That sure looked like a sarcasm.
No. I mean, that's the thing. That's one of the fundamental problems with Dropbox is if I have project-oriented stuff and I have a circle of VIPs working on a particular project, if I can just share this file with a circle, we're starting to see how the social layer plays out for both personal, business.
I got a question for Peter or Alan or whoever. We use Dropbox because I have we have different locations, right? I have in Front Royal, I have our main office where we have a layout team, and then I have in Bentonville an inside sales department, and they're trying to share stuff back and forth. We're using Dropbox. Actually, it's a Google Docs question. Is there a way she can individually share a Google Doc with someone? Is there a way to make a folder or something where you can say that anything that I create and stick in this folder that my regular list of people can view this, or do you have to automatically share each one?
You want to add permissions to a folder, it sounds like. And actually, I think Oleg is probably a great person to answer this, since I think he is the Google Docs expert. But I believe you can set permissions on a folder. I'm not positive on that, but I believe you can.
All right, what else we got, Alan?
And then this is something that I know Oleg would really love if he were here. Unfortunately, he had to leave.
He has an important delivery issue with his business, and that takes priority over of us.
And it does. We understand. Sorry to see him go. But apparently, you are now able to view streams from specific games in Google Plus Games. This is a feature that I'm sure people who actually play games have been clamoring for. But I don't know any of them, so I really couldn't comment further.
Say that again. I didn't understand the functionality. View streams? What do you mean? I mean,
basically, as I understand it, you
like status updates on games or whatever.
It used to be that you had a single stream, a single game stream, and that was for every game that any of your friends dealt with. So even if you're not playing a game, and if I'm playing, if the only game I play is Edgeworld, and I check out my stream every so often because my other friends who are playing Edgeworld are commenting there, and you were playing something else like Zynga Poker, every post that you made would show up in my stream, in my game stream. But since I don't care about Zynga Poker, you're spamming me. So what this is saying is now I can see just a stream of my Edgeworld friends' posts, which I suppose is useful. And, if I was doing it, I am kind of surprised they didn't tie it to circles, because that seems like a duplicate functionality to circles. But
let me ask you guys about this, because I've noticed something that's interesting. For a while, when the game thing first came out, I checked it out, and I played 5 minutes or whatever, and I don't think I've done anything with it since. I turned off game notifications because I didn't want to know how everyone was doing in some game I'm not playing. But I would still get notifications from certain users about their progress in some game that I'd never played or didn't know anything about. And that went for months. but lately I've noticed I'm not getting them anymore. Have any of you experienced that?
In the first place.
I got some.
I believe there was a bug where we were getting them for a short while, but they did go away. I don't think there was much to that. I think it was a bug that was found and resolved.
Okay.
Okay.
So from what Alan said, is it like they kind of elegantly resolved what Facebook had as a problem? You know,
I wouldn't say that. Well, two things. First of all, the fact that there is a separate game stream, I would not consider an elegant solution to the problem.
Okay.
Second, I think the way they've now added this additional filter onto the game stream, I think is an even less elegant solution to the problem.
Okay. But it still doesn't show up on your mainstream, which is something a lot of people will like.
Was that like or would like?
Would like.
Yes, that's the problem, is you have to go to a separate game stream.
Yeah. I mean,
there are advantages and disadvantages to it, but I think it's a very inelegant solution to the problem.
well, that may not be a good solution from their point of view, hopefully. I don't know.
Actually, I mean, from the game producers, they've already stated they don't like it. They find a lot less interaction and sharing on Google Plus than they did on Facebook. And at the Game Development Conference, they indicated that the games they have on both platforms, they're seeing a much, much higher rate of the viral nature of the games. They see that much more on Facebook than they do on Google Plus.
Is that
So
also
they're pushing Google Plus to do something about it.
well, if it all comes down to the bottom line, you never know. Google will have to do that.
I think Google will have to do something. I wish they had done it from the beginning, because changing it now, what they're going to get is a lot of bad press.
And of course, Google never gets bad press. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just invite everybody again, and we're going to open this up. Do we have any final thoughts as we conclude this Google Plus week? Any, Sarik, did you have a good week? Any...
Yes, Dan, I had a pretty good. We actually criticized Google more, or Google Plus more than.
Don't sound so excited, Sri.
No.
Yes, I had a really good week.
No, I'm saying is I was listening to initially. We had a great talk on Hangouts and the new API, and then suddenly we switched mode into complete criticism. And in fact, even Oleg was joining that, so it was very surprising. But overall, it was a pretty good one.
Okay. Peter, how'd your week go? Any final thoughts?
No, it's been a good week, and it's just exciting to see the new rollouts. Google consistently shipping new and new updates, which is great for people that do the type of work I do and helping other businesses learn how to use this, because there's always new information. So a little too early to write the book because the rules keep changing every day, but that keeps it fresh.
And your website again is?
It's petergmcdermott.com, and if I could plug tomorrow, we're going to be actually having one of the anchors from KRNV, Melissa Carlson, is going to be joining us to talk about actually using Hangouts for Google Plus on my podcast, How to Make It Work, which you can download
that's
on
awesome.
iTunes.
That's great. Good. Get somebody excited about that. What's your website? Do you have a website, Sarik?
No, not like I only have a what's that, blog page with only one article in there. No, I don't
follow him on Google
do
Plus. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're a high frequency blog publisher.
Alan, and we're closing the official show, and we'll keep the Hangout open if someone wants to join us or whatever. Alan, any final thoughts?
One of the things I posted about today is we're seeing people doing more and more creative things with Hangouts. Hangout apps, I think, are going to be one of the big bridges to that. I think as we do a lot of talking head stuff here. We see a lot of talking head Hangouts. I think more and more we're going to see Hangouts evolve to something way, way beyond that. And I'm really excited about not just apps, but about what that means when we go beyond the talking head Hangout. So that's exciting.
Well, I Go ahead, Sri.
I just want to add that only with Hangout APIs being out, we are so excited. Just wondering, is Google going to do a complete API, or are they going to do release part by part?
We're going to talk. We need to. That's a nice conversation for another time, I think.
Okay.
We can pick that up after the show if you want.
All right, there'll be a private post about that. Hey, I want to thank everybody for watching tonight live, and if you're watching on YouTube or the Justin Repeat or whatever, and whatever platform, we really appreciate it. It's fun for all the folks here. We're all volunteers. We do this just to learn ourselves and to educate and to have a great conversation, a good time. So it was fun. It was interesting and really an exciting week for Google Plus, as they rolled out the new apps, the recommended apps or featured apps, and the API system. And it all boils down to, it was funny to that famous post that went viral, that the engineer posted a thing, and he thought it was private, but it went public and it went crazy. And it was all, the central theme was, you need to build a platform, not a product. And I think Google Plus answered that today or this week. So good for them, and all the folks here have had fun playing with those apps, and some have been busy developing their own, and I tried one tonight. So it's exciting to see this. This is a game-changing week. It's part of the evolution of Google Plus into what we think it's going to evolve into, and the future will tell. So thank you very much for watching. Please comment. I read every comment. All of us do. We read all the comments on these things. And we really appreciate you joining us and giving us your time. And thanks so much, and have an excellent, excellent Google Plus week.